That's great. I love that you shared about the kind of like the spark that you mentioned in students. So talking about maths teachers, so let's say for example, I'm a maths teacher, right? And and I'm struggling with my class. I notice my students are disengaged, they're not understanding what is taught. So if you were in my shoes as a teacher, what's the first three things that you would kind of look at and reflect? And then what are the changes then you would implement?
Right. It's a great question. Great question. So I would first of all ask, why are they disengaged? Well, first of all, I have to notice that they're disengaged. And I have seen teachers, not necessarily mathematics teachers, but who just kind of plow on in their lesson, even though the students are not engaged. So you need to, first of all, recognize there's a problem and then ask, well, why are they disengaged? And my experience in reflecting would say that almost all students disengage when they don't understand. And I'm not talking about understanding the procedure that I've just taught them. I'm talking about understanding the concepts that those procedures are based on. One of my favorite recent statements is there's too many students spending too much time and too many maths lessons not understanding the work that they have been given to do. They can maybe do it, but they don't understand what they're doing. It's just this ridiculous code that they have to follow whatever the teacher says, and out pops an answer, and some of it kind of half makes sense, and a lot of it doesn't make any sense at all. If they don't understand, then that's a big diagnosis. The way I like to explain that, if I go back to my early years, because I think this is part of the problem. I was a teacher, maths teacher, and so I thought my role was to teach procedures. So I'd go into a classroom, I'd have my lesson plan, I've got the next 3 or 4 procedures, I'd write a procedure on the board, explain it, copy this down, do another 5 or 10, stop everyone, here's the next thing, blah, blah. That's what I do. And I still think that's how most mathematics is taught as a default. I know that there's a lot more to it than that, but as a general rule, so students are replicating what the teacher's doing a fair bit of the time. So I call this procedures first, understanding second. So I'm teaching procedures. That's my number one priority, and I hope that the understanding occurs, whatever that means. But I knew, even in my first year, I knew a lot of students weren't picking it up, it being understanding, and I didn't even know really what that meant. And the problem with that approach, and I reckon all maths teachers have tried other things. They do other more engaging tasks. They do more student-centered things here and there. They do some investigations, but they come back to this traditional way of teaching because they've got to get through the syllabus, and it's the only way they know how to get through the syllabus. So I don't blame them for doing it, because unless someone shows them a way that's time efficient, that allows students to understand, then don't change. But I would like them to do our PD, because that's exactly what we do, right? And let's present maths to students in ways that are time efficient and that have students understand what's going on. And from that understanding comes the engagement and the agency and so on. That's one diagnosis. Procedures first, understanding second is what doesn't work very well, but it's certainly what I used to do, and it didn't work very well then either. And that's a way of describing, I think, the default current paradigm. And we'll talk about what the change will be in a sec.